Hey, yo, what's the deal? Miss your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording, it's 1:57 p.m., September 24th, 2025. You know what I mean? And right now, this is the second video of the day. You know what I mean? Mind you, it's Wednesday, so, in a little bit, I'm going to go shave. You know what I mean? I might step out later today. You know what I mean? Make a video tonight. Who knows? You know what I mean? I got a lot of things I got to do. I just took this ground beef out. You know what I mean? I got to cook this shit for tomorrow. For tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm doing spaghetti. I heard it's gonna rain. We'll see what happens. If nothing comes by 6 o'clock, my ass is going outside. I don't give a fuck. Drinking some nice water. Yeah. So, in pro wrestling, there is always there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of people who are pissed off about so many things, right? So much bullshit. But, when you talk about anger that has to do with, not getting a push or feeling like you have to get this or you have to get that. Listen, everyone's not gonna get what the fuck they want in professional wrestling. That's just how it is, right? And it's something you just gotta live and deal with it, right? You just gotta live and let learn, right? But for some people like MVP, who is, mind you, this man is in another wrestling company, right? And he's throwing shots at Triple H, right? He's throwing shots at him for what? Well, what the fuck is he throwing shots at Triple H for? Huh? What the fuck is this dude mad at him for? Why? Because Triple H and WWE Creative don't look at you as an asset. You know what I mean? Like you once was. Let's keep it a stack about MVP. All right. I'm gonna tell you why I'm talking about MVP in terms of Triple H, right? MVP was a guy who, when he came back to the company, I forgot what year it was. After how many years in TNA, he just made appearances. He was wrestling, but he wasn't the quintessential star that he was during the Ruthless Aggression era. Right? MVP was a good wrestler during the Ruthless Aggression era. He was a good wrestler. I can't lie. You know what I mean? Like his gimmick was basically, it was based off of, his issues with, one, Stephon Marbury, right? AKA Starberry, right? And so he spent a lot of his time in TNA, right? And things did not go according to, he had a good career in TNA also, don't get me wrong, right? But the thing is, to me, he had a better career in WWE than in TNA, right? So when he comes back to the company, he didn't garner the same success that he thought he would have had in WWE like he did with TNA or his first run in WWE, right? His second run in WWE was basically Basuda, trash, and all that other good shit, right? So then, of course, the hurt business gimmick happened, and it did wonders for his career, right? It did some good wonders to a point where he was relevant again, right? And then you had Bobby Lashley, and then you had Shelton Benjamin. You also had Cedric Alexander, right? It's not a bad group. Definitely was not a bad group, right? So, do I think, the Hurt Syndicate should have been pushed in a more prominent role? Of course, absolutely. Absolutely. So he leaves, so Bobby Lashley them get, they leave WWE for AEW, right? And they reunite or in AEW, right? So he goes to AEW, he becomes a manager. He hasn't even wrestled a match for AEW, right? His role is basically he's a fucking manager at this point moving forward, right? That's his best asset. But the bitterness against WWE, and I don't know, I honestly do not know if this is an AEW thing or this is just him personally. Because there is a lot of bad blood with a lot of things that's coming out of, it's coming out of his mouth that you're like, yo, wait a minute. Is this dude pissed off at Triple H or is he pissed off at WWE Creative? He said in the interview that he has zero respect for Triple H, citing personal issues and interactions with him. Not race as the cause of, with him. Not race as the cause of his negative opinion. Right? And then he goes on to say that, he also criticized Triple H's booking decision using Bobby Lashley as an example of a talented wrestler who was reduced to the mid-card after Triple H took over creative control. He plans to elaborate with those issues on his podcast, blah, 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 blah. Right? But, the fact, to me, do I think he does allude to race? Yeah, I do think so. I think so. I honestly think so. I think, with whatever issues he has with Triple H, I think, in his mind, it's more of a race thing, right? It's more of a race thing because, look how Vince was booking, right? Look how Vince was booking, black wrestlers in the past, right? And he did a lot worse. He did a lot worse than whatever MVP is citing that Triple H did to him. You know what I mean? I think this all comes down to anger that, that he thought that he was promised, a bigger push or a bigger role in terms of creative in the card, and that didn't come into fruition. Like, my man, you're a manager. You're a fucking manager, B. Let's keep it a stack. You are a manager, dog. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I don't have a problem with MVP, right? I don't. I really don't. I think he's a talent. He's a talented. He's a talented individual. He was once a good wrestler, but those days are all long past due. You know what I mean? I think he's also angry that his role is basically just him being a fucking manager for the Hurt Syndicate. I think that's what it is. And also, here's the other thing you got to think about too. Remember all the backstage shit that you heard about? With AEW, like he's using creative control to put over the Hurt Syndicate and not putting teams over and such. So this leads me to believe that it's not even with Triple H. It's with fucking MVP himself, because I think MVP tried to play. He tried to play a political pull on Triple H, and Triple H was like, fuck that, we're not doing that. Fuck out of here. And I think that's why he's angry. And I think he's also angry because Vince is no longer in the picture. You know what I mean? So he doesn't have nobody that he can run to, for a second opinion. I mean, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. You know what I mean? There's certain things you can't pull with people, right? And when you try to pull bullshit with them, right? They shut you down. They shut you down like fucking Onyx and DMX. Shut him down. 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 I bet you this motherfucker double barrel will blast your face. Now you look like a basket case. Niggas pumped you up to watch you get. Oh my goodness. I might have fucked up the beginning of the lyrics, but I love that record, boy. DMX tore that record to shreds. I'm going to put that shit in the description too. For those that don't know, rest in peace DMX, because, 1998, 99, 2000 DMX, oh my God. Anyway, let me not go off track. But, WWE Creative tried to shut down whatever the Hurt Syndicate, try to do and shit. And he's mad, right? And there you go. And Bobby Lashley, in terms of him being a single star, he's not really doing all that well, in AEW anyway. I mean, I'm not saying that, but he's in a fucking tag team. He's in a fucking tag team. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. You know? But I think it has a lot to do with, booking and how he think the Hurt Syndicate should be booked. I'm sorry, but I like the Hurt Business or the Hurt Syndicate, whatever the fuck you want to call them. But like you gotta put over people. You have to. You have to. If you don't, then then you show that you're not doing business. And this motherfucker shows he doesn't do any kind of business at all. Sorry to hate, sorry to burst your bubble, B, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'm about to be out, guys. You know what I mean? I will be coming with another video tonight. You know what I mean? I don't know if it'll be outside because I don't like how the clouds look. I don't. So I think it is going to rain, but we'll see. Peace.